So you're about to jump into a new activity called Jigsaw, and Jigsaw is this gorgeous methodology where learners are actually working with each other to help each other learn. And it can be used when learners are reading a significant amount of text or listening to content that may be more knowledge-based, and it allows cooperative learning activity to be able to have each person in your learning environment to actually teach somebody else. As we know from learning science, when we teach someone else, we're actually more likely to remember the content that we're actually teaching. So Jigsaw is gorgeous for this. It uses a methodology that teaches a significant amount of content in a very short period of time and also engages everyone. So as the facilitator, you're not training at the front of the room, you're actually facilitating the learning process. Okay, so let me walk you through the steps. So to run a Jigsaw, you typically need a number of people, anywhere between 20 and 150. For this specific activity, you need about 20 people. If you don't have 20 people, I'll give you some guidance on how to address that as well. So your first step is to select 10 volunteers. Each volunteer will lead a group. Preferably, they should have about a 5th grade reading level to be able to lead that group. They do not need to be experts in anything around ECDiE or anything even within education. They are just going to lead a group. Now ask the 10 volunteers to come up and meet with you at the side and the front of the room, and you're basically going to give each volunteer an individual sheet. So one volunteer gets sheet number 1, one volunteer gets sheet number 2, so they are not getting the exact same sheet. Everyone has a unique sheet that comes with an image that has some aspect of ECDiE. Okay? Explain to them that they should look over the content, those volunteers, and that they will be then explaining what they have on their one sheet or 2 sheets in some instances to another small group of participants. Okay? They only have about 5 minutes to prepare, so they shouldn't overthink it, and they can teach it in any way that they choose. Okay? The remainder of your participants will then gather in groups of 10 people each, making sure that each of those groups are coming up with a group name. After about 5 minutes, just check in with the volunteers who are preparing and then have them stand at different spots around the room. Your seated groups, you should tell them that they should all, within their groups, count off from 1 to 10. You may have 4 or 5 groups, but within those groups, each person within there has a number between 1 and 10. Now, each person with the number 1 will stand and go to the volunteer who was assigned knowledge sheet number 1. Number 2, all the number 2s will stand up, and they will go over to the volunteer who is teaching knowledge sheet number 2. Now have all the number 3s stand up, and they all go to the volunteer who has knowledge sheet number 3, and so on. So you'll have 10 groups. Once they're in the right group, the volunteer should make sure that he or she has everyone, and then they can begin teaching as soon as they have everyone. Now they only have 6 minutes to teach their content. So they use that knowledge sheet that they've been given as well as the image, and they can teach the content in any way that they like. Some people just read the sheet and that's okay, and some people may get a little more creative. Tell the people who are learning that they should also take notes, because they will later be expected to teach another person what they are learning right now. Keep time, and after 6 minutes, just say stop and have everybody go back to the groups where they came up with the group name. Once everyone is situated, explain that they will now take turns teaching the content that they just learned to all the people that are sitting with them now in their named group. So each person has 5 minutes to teach everybody else in that small group to give key content that they've just learned. The people who were the volunteers teaching the content should just choose any random group and sit, because we want them to also learn the other content that was presented. We suggest that after every 5 minutes you call out switch so that people don't go over time, because the timing is really quite tight. This helps them keep time. After all the groups have finished, or after 50 minutes, call all groups to come together for plenary and discussion. Now you can show the PowerPoint deck from the slide that basically is a summary of each of those teaching points, and just use the PowerPoint slide display to help people recall what that section or session was about so that you can run the plenary section. If you have less than 20 people that you're running this session for, but you have at least 10, what we suggest that you do is do the exact same methodology, but just do 5 knowledge sheets at a time. So you will do 2 jigsaw rounds to ensure that you cover all the content. You really only need about 4 minutes extra just to kind of coordinate the movement of the groups so that it's not a whole lot of extra time, but it does cover all the content with a fewer number of people. Larger groups are better, so if you have enough people, do those larger groups, and I hope that helps. If you have any questions or comments or anything you want to add about this methodology when you presented it, or any questions or queries about how to do it better, please put it in the comments below and we will respond as we can, but also we encourage you to answer other people's queries. Jigsaw is such an incredible methodology. There's a significant evidence base that not only does it work to help people learn the content, but to retain it for much longer periods of time.